Yuri's bio. So Yuri Suzuki is a sound artist, designer, and electronic musician. His practice explores the realms of sound through designed pieces that examine the relationship between people and their environments, questioning how both music and sound evolved to create personal experiences. Suzuki was born in Tokyo in 1980. After studying industrial design, he worked with Meiwa Denki, the Japanese electronic art unit. During this period, Yuri began exploring the relationship between music and technology. In 2005, he moved to London to study product design at the Royal College of Art, where he further developed his interest in the crossover between art, design, and music, using both analog and digital technologies to explore this. Central to Suzuki's practice is collaboration. He has worked with various musicians, including will.i.am and Jeff Mills, as well as commercial clients such as Google, with whom he developed a unique AR music kit. His work can be seen in several international museum collections, including the Museum of Modern Art in New York. He has had both solo and group exhibitions at the Tate Britain London, Mudam Luxembourg, MoMA, and the Museum of Modern Art Tokyo. In 2016, he received the Designer of the Future Award at Design Miami. In 2018, Suzuki was appointed a partner at Pentagram, the world's largest independently owned design studio, where he began working as an artist in the London studio. Suzuki and his team work internationally, pushing the boundaries between art, design, technology, and sound, crossing the fields of both low and high technology. And I just realized, for those of you who don't know, my name is Catherine Moriwaki. I'm an associate professor of media design here at Parsons. And as I said, I'm delighted to go ahead and hear this fantastic talk. So I think with that, what I'm going to do before we begin, I have to let everybody know, we are going to be recording this session. Should you have any objections to having your likeness recorded and shared online through YouTube and our social media channels, please feel free to turn your video camera off at this time. And with that, we will be recording the session. So Yuri, thank you very much for joining us. Please share with us what you have to talk about today.
Okay, great. Thank you for introduction. So let me share my screen then. Okay. Yeah, so first of all, thank you for invitation and really excited to sharing my projects. So I think I've tried to quickly for my presentation part because we only have 20 minutes. So my name is Yuri Suzuki, and I'm sometimes categorized artist and designer, sometimes musician as well. So kind of working cross boundary between these fields. But always, what I'm doing, main material is always sound and music. So basically, my practice about everything about sound and music. So just my background, I used to work as an introduction, say I used to work for Japanese artist called Meiwa Denki. I was in the beginning was design or a kind of production assistant, but became performer as well. So that's kind of where I developed in my practice in the beginning. So I'm just quickly show my video there. So after working for Meiwa Denki was quite a great experience, definitely influenced me a lot to developing my own practice. But my first kind of my own practice became DJ and electronic musician. That was my first career. And I moved to Berlin around, I think, 2002 or 2003, can't remember. But at that time, I tried to establish myself as a like kind of DJ that time. But unfortunately, my kind of like music is not very popular. So like in the end, I'm not very popular DJ as well. So kind of decided to move to London and study product design at Royal College of Art. And after graduation, I worked quite defined project. Like that's why I think always difficult categorizing myself, because sometimes working for like making musical instrument for where I am, and like sort of co-directing music video, making product, making kind of like an advertisement campaign or like art installation. That's basically I have been working for like the past 10 years. Kind of big change happened like a couple of years ago. I became partner at Pentagram, and it's world's largest kind of independent design consultancy company. It's kind of like really like put into that kind of branding kind of that is product consultancy world after that. But however, just like a really fundamentally what I'm interested is really purely communication. That's all like Pentagram considering about what's communication is like. That's a fundamental topic we're always thinking. So I'm just like trying to show like how music and also interaction helping to understanding things. And one project is quite personal project called Music for Dyslexic. So this really came from like my experience. So I used to be in band like in Japan, like the ska punk music band. I really love it that time. But however, like we formed when I was a high school student or something, and we kind of like enjoying the process to be like in being in the band. But one time they decided to be professional, and I got fired because I couldn't read the musical score. So, so basically, I used to play trombone, and that's really interesting instrument. Everything quite physical, and also your arm position representing note, and I really like shape of the design as well. So I used to learn like trombone because, as I say, I can't read any musical score. So this is basic trombone like a musical score. But I couldn't really understand it. I couldn't read any rhythm or melody or sound from this kind of visual notation. So that's why like what I have done, I used to learn as music is actually I was listening and putting the number of the kind of arm position. So like almost like it's sort of like a physically have to learning like, you know, playing like music. But it was quite sad. I got fired from the band. So I feel like when I decided to be designer, I kind of like thinking about what if we can create musical notation even dyslexic people could understand. So like my background dyslexic, so it's going to be highly helpful to develop this project. And I came one conclusion called color chaser project. So I was like looking for a lot of like visual music notation, quite a lot. And I just like saw beautiful visual notation designed by Toru Takemitsu, who's a Japanese film composer. He's quite well known and often collaborated with like a designer, a visual designer such as Bruno Minari. And also like of course, like this like painting, like downtown boogie woogie is actually Mondrian tried to express music from color and composition to express music from here. So firstly, I analyzed from how people could imagine the sound. So basically, brighter color is higher pitch sound, and the darker color is like a lower tone. So this is sort of like logical people imagining about like a sound. And the music has got sort of duration time for each note and also gap between sound and sound. That's how I can make a component of the music. So this is one of the kind of like conclusion I made that time. So basically this black line describing of the length of the songs, this white car that looks like a small robot flowing black line. And if you interact with color, that color information translates into the sound. So basically, like, if you're drawing it, but same time you're composing music. So this like method is really easy to understand and physically understandable, and like, immediately visual and action and sound it's connected. So it will intend to like design for mobile people doesn't have like knowledge to how to reading musical score, but then like it's really became quite popular content for children. And I was invited for like one summer project at the Museum in Luxembourg. It's one of the best like a museum and doing quite experimental project. And so basically I made kind of a large installation that time. And the purpose for this project, people just randomly coming in and drawing and collaborating together to, like making music through the painting or like making like, drawing pictures. So basically, like this project is through the kind of experience, like you kind of slowly understanding music logic, and then like you basically have more fun to compare with kind of like pushing key on the keyboard, like you are drawing, and that's immediately you are understanding logic of how music works. And also another project is Bitmap communication project. It's actually not very sound related project, but I quickly show you this project. So basically, I've got kind of like commission project from a place called Platform 21 in Amsterdam, and they try to do like a sort of close down event for that museum. And I'm proposing them to like a kind of creating an experience to like basically they want to have like a highly collaborative project, people participating into their 10 years history of the museum and all people coming in to do something together. So I think I immediately thought this is sort of like ending of the like one museum, but they want to start a new thing. So I thought quite nice to do something sharing food in the end, but I don't want to do dinner or supper because supper means kind of, last supper in a way, something symbol of the end. So something I'm gonna do is breakfast. And but it's so many people coming in, like 100 people coming in and they kind of collaborate cooking like breakfast. It just doesn't make sense for me. And I came up idea, what if we creating like primitive breakfast machine? And that's basically like my like brief. So if I like research that time, like there's so much like sci-fi film, like putting breakfast machine in the beginning of the film, because it's kind of telling about a great story coming out after. So it's always kind of great introduction as a breakfast machine. So this is from Flubber. I'm not sure if this is allowed to play or not, but and also this is one of the most beautiful breakfast machine designed by, I believe this is designed by Tim Burton. Pee-wee's like a great adventure. So we have a couple references for like this kind of sci-fi film and like videos scene, and I can show like a couple of them. And also this Tiki Tiki Bam Bam from Disney, and also this is from I think it's from Brazil. I think this one, and also quite famous one by Back to the Future. So when I arrived to the space, like basically nothing in there, like just a couple of like a podium and that kind of thing. So nothing like has got at that time, and a relatively low budget project. So we basically went to like a flea market, car boot sale, and collecting like a potential material could be useful for this project. And this is really highly open and a bit more like a collaborative platform. So idea in this project is basically a really primitive machine that you have to make. And another concept behind is actually you are using like kind of computer or like kind of iPhone and so on, like, which is a highly black box and never understanding what's happening inside. So people to understand the basic like a mechanism and how world works. So that's something I want to do from this project. So we just give brief, like for example, can you like make like a egg breaking machine? There's sort of like a fried egg machine, and there's some people making really primitive
Ready, steady, go. Damn, why didn't it work?
So it's kind of growing up exhibition. There's nothing there, like people slowly building, and we conduct together at making machine. And for example, this is the egg cooking machine that we made it to better.
Oh.
And then around the kind of couple of hundred people came in and they kind of helped to build the breakfast machine, and like in the end it looks like that. So basically kind of like 24-meter by like 3-meter height, like a large like a breakfast machine we created. So like we basically offer to all people participate and the kind of all-day breakfast, and suddenly like put in the news as well. So that was pretty popular things. But it's all about nothing about making practical machine. So like I'm just a kind of probably a bit noisy. So
picture spin quiz. Fingers on buzzers, teams.
It's Vic Mowbray. Vic Mowbray has Sheffield Wednesday. What was the picture, by the way? Was there a story about people hanging out for bread this week, trying to attract ducks into their underpants? And you dirty washing up and get a duck into your underpants, film it for you've been framed, get 300 quid. And the bread in the washing line.
Yeah. I missed that one. Can we see a bit more of the picture spinning?
Yes.
Oh yeah, a bit more picture spinning.
Are those very small shirts?
Is that a man who's invented an extremely complicated way of making breakfast?
Yes, a couple of Japanese designers have spent 11 days and £900 to come up with a breakfast making machine. Yeah. Do you want to have a look at the machine in action?
Yeah, well, yes, please. Yeah. They've spent 900 quid on it, might as well.
Like Wallace and Gromit, isn't it?
I think we'll have to abandon this one. It's rubbish.
According to Mr. Suzuki, who invented it,
He's the less successful of the Suzuki engineers, really, isn't he?
well, he did say, actually, this isn't very useful. Things keep falling off or breaking. Before adding, you can just put an egg in a pan, fry it, and you're done.
yeah, so like this is kind of one of the projects. So like as I say, like I'm really interested in like through the kind of activity and technology to make people to understanding things. And other side is more about sound. So like I would like to like share like one project called Sonic Playground. So I think I have a really amazing opportunity a couple of years ago from like a place called High Museum Art. They like do kind of summer type like installation program. So they asked me to develop some project that time. And I proposed like a quite interesting community, like kind of a sort of like they're based in Atlanta. And then like there are really like interesting things happening because like a new like kind of community coming in, and especially for like a film industry, like has got like that city has got really low tax like rate, so like so many films are shooting there, and a really creative community kind of moving in, and quite positive things happening. So I just like want to make sort of place kind of people to merge, and also kind of has got place to like communication, mobile audio communication. That's basically what I wanted to do. And this sculpture is basically looks like playground looking, fun looking object. And if you talk into one direction, like sound, it's quite interesting way to traveling and play back, like quite interesting way. So this is mean like just like strangers, like people doesn't know each other, but coming in and talk, suddenly communication is starting. So this kind of Sonic Playground is just really playground, but the place for like people to have like kind of communication. That's basically I do. Like I kind of intended for this project. And also in front of this sculpture is really like your face is totally like anonymous, and you can speak whatever you want to say, and also people something shouting or like singing, like never be shy. So like in a way, like this project really helps to like discover like people's kind of voice, and also like learning what other people think.
Hello.
People like singing as well. So that's kind of driving to think about the power of the sound, because that audible communication is quite strong, and also bonding community same time. And then like that actually became became sort of like one of the component of my practice. And one project called Welcome Chorus, that's kind of a continuous like study since like High Museum Art piece. So Margate is really interesting city. Like I'm actually living in Margate. I moved to London like before COVID time actually, and it's really interesting city because it used to be quite popular tourism destination, but after budget year introduced, like kind of so many, like it's basically kind of this community is down, like really poor as a city, not city, basically town, seaside town. So, but quite interesting things happening is like many like young people, young couple from like London start moving there, like making community and making family and also like starting new business. So really new things happening in this town. And I've got commission from last year, I think, from Turner Contemporary, because like Turner Prize, one of the most famous art prize from UK, I'd hold it in like this town, and they want to have sort of digital experience, sort of like kind of place for bonding community, that kind of installation they were looking for. So basically, my idea is kind of creating sort of like music piece, like anyone can participate and kind of building songs together. That's basically I want to do through this project. And first of all, like I collected like so much word from like a different part of the Kent, like that's kind of same like area of the Margate, and people coming in, like speaking to the microphone, and quickly actually like using artificial intelligence to learn and also memorize word and melody, and this like algorithm like keep feeding and learning and just making just like every like 15 minutes making new songs. So this is sort of like an example I can show you. So like so this is almost like kind of half a year project. We left like this installation outside of Turner Contemporary, and people keep feeding like a word and opinion about the kind of Margate or like a personal opinion and everything. So basically algorithms keep learning what they're talking about and generating brand new songs as a kind of choir piece. So that's why I call it welcome chorus. So like this one was an example like coming up. So like this all created by like a basic algorithm and a kind of 1,000 to like 10,000 word coming in, like composing brand new music.
Due to a falling out between the solidarity, the local authorities started enforcing to clean up after the statue left, which was a roadblock to the recent built some kind of structures, but the statue has been moved to a more accessible place where it will be safe for future generations.
So melody and the lyrics totally different, but this is something about celebrating Margate or something about kind of opinion about Margate. So basically like final aim for this song, like project is try to make an anthem of the local town songs. And what's kind of bright side for this project, in the end, we actually created one night event. Oh, sorry, like just like bit minutes over. So kind of we created this local choir group for like sort of music from like this algorithm, and then we performed like actual algorithm created songs. Like basically this AI and the kind of learned algorithm created these like melody and songs. So these are like local choir groups. So like that's one of the project. Then like moving into like after COVID, like what happened to me basically. So basically I'm like doing a lot of project like based on physical installation, such as you saw it like Sonic Playground and Welcome Chorus, and many things has been canceled or kind of postponed because it's kind of avoiding like sort of infection. And then, but same time, like I have a lot of nice opportunity about like how to connecting people through the like through the audio, and especially using sort of like a website, and then kind of feeling people to connected. So one project is called Sound of the Earth Pandemic Chapter. So we did like this project for Dallas Museum Art. So idea for this project is basically like this black ball is based like position as kind of Earth, and you are basically like all like disconnected during the quarantine time. But people actually submit their own voice or like kind of recording through the kind of this website. You can actually submit and recording it, and then this website automatically like detecting like location, like kind of making kind of word geographically like right position, basically sound globe map that we try to make. So like you can record, and also same time you can like browsing. So like sound is quite like soothing, sometimes like the voice or like poem or like sound recording, and so many different sounds coming out from this project. So as this project is really like a work in progress, and it started from zero, and now it's submitted around 500 to 600 in here. And it's really nice to hear sound. You are still really connected with this world. So that's like basically we worked on like during COVID period. And so like this is almost like a end of my slide, but something I'm gonna talk like this is like really about like COVID situation and this kind of pandemic time. It's really like changing like world's communication, but still like sound. It's really, really strong element as strong communication method. And as a positioning as like a sound designer and sound artist, I feel like importance of sound is quite increasing like past couple of months, I feel. So that's probably like end of my presentation. Thank you.
So thank you so much, Yuri, for your fantastic talk. What I'm going to ask all of you to do is that if you have questions, to please use the function on in Zoom to raise your hand virtually, and I will try my best to make sure to call on people in the order that they actually flag that they have a question. Okay. So would anybody like to start off with a question? No? I have, oh, I see we have a question. Please, John Roach, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hi there. Thank you so much for this great talk. It's I've been watching your work for a while, and it's such a pleasure to hear you talk about it. I was hoping you could tell us a little bit about the project that you were working on, the personal vinyl lathe, and when I can get one.
So that's kind of became my project as well. So like maybe like most of like some of you like doesn't know about another project for vinyl record, like easy record maker. So basically a toy version of the record cutting machine. So it's kind of looks like toy, but you can create your own record in handmade. So I collaborated with Japanese company and created that project, and unfortunately, they don't have any distribution outside of like Japan, but we are working so hard at the moment finding a distributor in the US and the UK, sorry, Europe, actually Europe and the US at the moment. So it will coming out, but maybe early next year.
So anybody else, any other questions? So one of the things that I found really fascinating about your presentation, Yuri, is that you, your installations and your work oftentimes focus on very kind of simple and straightforward interactions, right? And as you said before, your intent is to foster communication with a lot of these interactions. What have your observations been, or the feedback that you've gotten about the way in which your audience experiences these works?
Yeah, I think first of all, like my background, like such a dyslexic, because highly, for me, it's really difficult reading and so on, like understanding difficulty in there. So I intended to design something simple as possible and it universal in the way. And also another things, kind of playful experience is actually like basically there's no border in the way anyone can like have like same kind of playful experience. And I'm not a big fan of the artworks like reading like a bunch of like text and so on to understanding context. And because some people actually think like yeah I can understand, but some people like no idea what it's about. So that's actually kind of making like a diversion in a way. So I purposely try to make everything simple and any like age or like any like gender or like race, like basically there's no border between that, because I think that's actually what's happening now in the all over the world. Actually, I feel like most of the cases are kind of purely communication problem, and we don't have a kind of common understanding each other. So what I'm gonna try to do is really like a basis and something use as a kind of basic interaction, playful experience, understanding one concept. That's basically what I want to do.
Is it a sort of conscious or intentional maneuver on your point then as an artist to sort of sidestep perhaps issues of politics then and social issues? For example, I was looking at your website prior to this talk and I noticed there was one work that stood out to me as really different from all the others. It was your, what is it, Acid Brexit? This piece of acid music that was inspired by Brexit, which was a very intense and very polarizing issue, which, for your particular body of work really it sort of sidesteps a lot of these kinds of hot button topics. And so for me, it really stood out in your portfolio as a project. I was like, oh no, this is actually very, very different. And you even wrote, I believe in the text, your discomfort at sharing it. So I wonder if you don't mind speaking a bit about that perhaps.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So it's, I was quite hesitating in the way because somehow I submerged that kind of my kind of subjective opinion as much as possible for like my project actually, because I want to be like share like many people as possible, kind of common ground. However, so Brexit, like I'm based in the UK and like really start this 10 years of the corruption of the kind of communities destroyed, and also like basically UK is committing suicide at the moment. And I love this country, but it has got really like something I want to contribute in a way, because I can see like not much like a young generation reacting to what's happening now. And then I just like want to contribute to music as, basically for free. And that time of protest is often happening. So I want to have something driving people to more protest and involving it. And I'm using acid house music, acid techno music, because I do feel like acid house and acid techno music is really kind of protest music from 90s, because I can feel like early 90s, like later 80s, that time Thatcher was there. And situation is quite similar. Like that time, like Theresa May was kind of prime minister, and extremely like conservative government in the kind of destroying many things. Then I feel like acid house was actually like sort of like bashed by like government like that time, but still like young people's sort of like protest and a sort of expression in that particular music genre. So I kind of hesitated, but in the end I decided to release that record that's kind of free to give into the people as well. But at the same time, I'm trying to not make something so serious anyway for this project. It's more fun and funny kind of sample of the kind of politician's voice, like almost like spit image kind of feeling of the like music, but it does like functioning like people to using it, and for the younger culture against something, and also like we shouldn't forget what's happened now, and we shouldn't really make same mistakes. That's why like I decided to do that project.
Well, thank you for that. I noticed we have a couple of questions here queued up. There's one individual who's been raising their hand, and then we have another question through the chat. So we'll pick up those two questions first. Anybody else, if you happen to think of something to ask, please go ahead and raise your hand or share it through the chat. So we have Konstantin Leonenko. If you would like to unmute yourself and ask your question, please.
Yes, that's me. Hello, Yuri. Thank you for the talk. I only managed to join for the last bit only.
Yeah, no problem.
I still haven't attended the Design Museum show, but hopefully getting there soon. Very curious about that. I just wanted to ask, is there any specific particular music activity or kind of an instrument or any sort of practice that you draw most inspiration from, that just kind of gets you into the kind of flow? It could be, I don't know, listening or playing or creating, just
I think
very general type question.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think I used that kind of forced by like my parents learning about how to play piano, but I couldn't really manage to learn because I couldn't read any musical score. And I jumped into the trombone after that. And trombone was quite fun because it's a band, like, more collaboration session. Then, but some point was for me, it's quite difficult to keep up the same speed as how people learning for the music. Then I was kind of discovered basically electronic music like a drum machine or synthesizer. That was a very starting point to me to much more easier to express myself in the music, because it doesn't need so much like knowledge, basically, like, you don't need for music like logic, but just you need to know like how to manipulate like that machines, and that's a really quick process to translate. So what's quite amazing to discover that kind of way for creating music.
Excellent. Thank you for that, Yuri.
Nice one. Thank you. Thank you, Yuri.
Yes.
Thank you.
So I'm going to move to the question that was shared over in the chat window, and I've seen a couple of different questions roll in after that. We'll try to get to everybody. This is from Ava Watson. Thank you for today's talk. I did the MA course that Yuri's tutors on called Information Experience Design at the RCA. And since 2017, it's been hard in a way to find physical spaces to work within or to get residencies. Could Yuri possibly explain the way in which he started out as an artist designer? Any types of advice for collaboration, early journey in our careers, something along these lines?
I think like a situation like people graduating now, it's quite a similar situation was when I graduated in 2008 as well, because obviously kind of Lehman shock was happened immediately like my year. So kind of basically I lost so much like job opportunity at that time. So that's why I had to start in my own studio. And it's quite bad saying now it's quite difficult traveling, because I had so much opportunity that time to any like unpaid project, but still you can visit somewhere to do something. So first my career, like after graduation from Royal College of Art, is just basically not much income, and just 1 year almost kind of continuously working for like project to project. But that's actually quite amazing time, and I was quite young as well, so I could manage that time. So but same time I think it's really depend on like how you're gonna go, and I'm quite glad I lost all job, because I managed to develop my own practice like for the couple of years after. But however, it really depends like how you want to develop your practice. Like for example, some people want to work in the company, or like some artists to develop, kind of building up their own kind of career, but some people want to immediately starting that. So it's really like a case by case that I can't really really advise much, but basically I think same attitude in a way, like you have to be a bit more like, humble in a way, like, tend to be some people like graduate from master degree, like kind of really big pride, like I can do things, but literally you have to start running again after you graduate. So that's kind of attitude is quite important, I think.
Wonderful. We have a question actually from Richard Tay. Richard.
Hey, Yuri, thank you. You mentioned Pentagram in your talk, and you are now a partner there. I was mostly curious, what new opportunities or possibilities do you see from being a Pentagram partner versus being already in your very successful independent practice? How has that changed your work, or what do you see in the future happening there?
Well, actually, amazing things like Pentagram is really amazing open, and Pentagram doesn't have control for anyone for the details of work or anything, and it's quite generous and amazing. And because basically my feeling to came to the Pentagram is really about like came back to Royal College, but again like seems like I'm studying again from like amazing partners, and almost like some people like a bit my your kind of classmate, and some people like my tutor in a way. So it was an incredible opportunity, and especially sadly like Daniel Weil, he actually mentoring me quite a lot past couple of years, and he just left Pentagram yesterday, like really sad, but I learned from him a lot, and that's an amazing honor, like to kind of learning under him. So but at the same time I think opportunity, and basically I'm continuing like same things as I used to do, but I have more time to think about the kind of sound study as well, because that's fundamental my interest, like how communication work with sound, and also through the work as well, like still like some, we are doing a lot of corporation identity sound as well. That is how we can have better communication through the sound. So it's, I think everything merged really nice way. My own practice like developed before the Pentagram, and what Pentagram has as well. So it is really great playground in a way.
Thank you.
Fantastic. We have another question from the chat window here. We have a question from Jing Jing Sun. And the question is, for commercial projects like Z Machines, the Pyramidi, Words Words Light, how do you come up with the idea to combine robot with the music? Any challenges?
Yeah, so first of all, like I'm actually like doing a lot of techie project I'm doing, but I'm really far from techie person. So like I do know like a basis of the kind of programming or basis of the understanding mechanics and stuff, but I'm pretty bad for the programming because I'm really bad at mathematics anyway. Then so reason why that kind of came out idea for like a robot is just like reason, just realizing so specific kind of idea, like we need to use robotic in a way. And of course, if you can imagine, like if you do physical mechanics, that's extremely difficult, I would say, because this world has got gravity, and also always kind of in the robot and so gear ratio and some damage in the happening. So there's so much unexpected, like accident happen all the time. So I think challenge in general is really about like stability of the kind of designing machine, and like, it will keep breaking, and sometimes it's so hard to make an industrial level robot in a short time, and a creative like challenge. But I think robot could do like something like a human cannot do, like such as like repeating same action many times. That's like normally human being cannot do. So like we actually can use that kind of like sort of like ability, like a robot to do something else.
Thank you. And just as a note, Ava, I've seen that you put in another question. What I'm going to do in the interest of trying to get to everybody's questions is go through some of the other ones, but if we have time, we'll come back to it, okay? Thank you so much for sharing. We're going to skip on over though to Sheer David, and this question is in the chat window. This question says, did you find new tools, hobbies, or new interests during this time in the pandemic?
Not really, no. I think I just realized because now I'm pretty much full-time in the market in the house, and I work from home basically because I can physically commuting to like office at the moment. I used to commuting every morning and coming back and kind of spending like 3 hours for commuting. But now I have got kind of after work or before work on the weekend, I have got my own time to do something, and really related to what I work normally anyway, because there's not much like border between what do as work or like what I prefer. But I was kind of passionate to creating like a lot of acid house music, like while like I was working, like I wish I have a chunk of time to finishing it. Then since like lockdown happened, like after like 6 o'clock, basically after work, I don't have much things to do. So I've started making like quite a lot of acid house music. So I almost make around 70 or 80 acid house music now, and I'm looking for a music label to releasing it. So that's probably the new hobby or something.
Wonderful. We have another question in the chat window. This is from Dag. Dag asks, "Hi Yuri, thanks for this great talk. I was wondering what your take on the relationship between sound and space is."
Yeah, okay, so that's I believe like space means more the architecture and acoustic relation, I guess. But yeah, it's different. Have to think about constellation. Always like because I do a lot of music composition for the work and kind of in the Pentagram at the moment. But we really considering actually composition itself and the sound aesthetic is nothing about sound design. Like we have to consider about what kind of like a device playback sound and also what kind of environment playback like sound as well. So we're strongly considering about acoustic like these days. And many companies like struggle at the moment to put in conference system at the moment because they're not really used to it, put in conference system, like even Pentagram as well. And now like we are issue of the kind of sound echoing all the time, like some noise coming from outside. So we have to redesign everything. So I'm like start like doing a lot of kind of, like acoustic kind of engineering part project as well, because I never learned before, but we had to research quite a lot what's the efficient way to making avoid like echo or like kind of bad acoustics. So I think again, like this is one of the considerations so many people realizing during COVID pandemic time, how important was acoustic of the house or work environment.
Wonderful, thank you. And Jia Bao, I see you've turned on your video. Would you like to ask your question live, or would you prefer me to read it from the chat screen?
Yeah, I'll just ask for live. Thanks for sharing your work, Yuri. So yeah, as you like first started your studio, how did you get commissions, projects? How did you become independent? And over the 10 years, how it changes and scales as a yeah.
I think again, like once I said, like when 2008 I graduated from college, lawyer college, but that was really worst time in a financial time. Basically like a Lehman shock was happened, credit crunch. So kind of like first 2 years, basically no money or like stability or anything. But at the same time, that time, I basically pay quite cheap rent and I don't need so much for like, money in a way, so I can do whatever I want. So like first 2 years, really investment for me, whatever I'm gonna take, any opportunity I took as well, like even unpaid or anything. So, but I'm more excited about the increase my own like kind of works, put in a portfolio and can show in the public and sharing idea. So that's like driving. And I never really thought about kind of making my own studio neither. Because the reason why I had to make it, because of like I got an amazing project with kind of big musician, and to able to this, like we had to make a company. Like otherwise, really, for the tax reason or like many administration reasons, impossible to take us myself. So like that's why I made a studio and I kind of start hiring people, and then like became like more studio format as well, and also like kind of the content of the job as well, because I used to do more of 100% art design project, but it became more like a client asking me to do something after that. So everything came quite naturally. I was quite lucky in the way, like I'm not intently like grabbing something or anything, just naturally everything happened. And then like, I've got a phone call from a kind of basic Pentagram to do like became partner at some point. Just really surprised because I thought like this really fires things to me, but they thought about the potential to me. So I think everything really, I would say like quite lucky, and thank you to everyone as well. But I think one thing is quite important thing is really about, kind of human relation in the way, like if you have a respectable person, you really have to respect and being humble. And that's, I feel like only things otherwise. I think, all about like, friendship or relationship, like making, things happen, I think.
Thanks for sharing.
Okay, so let's see, we're almost out of time. I think what I'm going to do is we have that last question from Ava that we'll just use to finish up with. This question is, what part of the creative journey do you enjoy the most?
Yeah, I think like, my most enjoyable time is first I got a brief from client or like some brief came in, and first like 1 hour it's like probably the best time like in terms of the installation, because I'm doing like relatively quite larger installation these days. Some installation taking 2 years or 3 years to realizing that, but the idea actually literally came in like first 1 hour for like yeah, it can be super nice project to do it. That's probably the most exciting time, and after that we have to have kind of all like kind of insurance and also production, and that became wow, okay, this is more like logistic work after that. But I do enjoying that process. But probably most exciting time is you came up idea and put in like a notebook. That's probably like the best time, I think.
Fantastic. We are just out of time here, but there are a few things that I need to be able to do before we go ahead and wrap up. Number one, what I would like to do is go ahead and plug. Some problems here. Go ahead and plug the future Cloud Salon events. And as we're wrapping up here, the things that I'd like to do is thank the organizing team of Cloud Salon. We have Richard Tay, Xing Ching, Sven Travis, graphic design by Richard Tay, program coordinator Sam Morrison, and support from the program, both BFADT and MFADT. This is program directors John Sharp and Melanie Crean. At the very last thing that I think that we would love to be able to do is have everybody go ahead and unmute. This is a suggestion from Xing. I thought it was fantastic. I am going to go ahead and load up Sounds of the Earth, Pandemic. If we all take ourselves off of mute, I'm actually going to go ahead and off these pods. And if we all unmute ourselves, I'm going to go ahead and record something.
Do we need a countdown?
1, 2, 3. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you
so much.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank
Thank
you.
Thank you so much.
Everybody be well.
Thank you.
Have a nice weekend.
Massive party tonight on D12.
And thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.